Hello, I'm Whispered Corvo, and this is Craft the Planet. And today, we are going to be working on a project that is a personal obsession of mine. We're going to be making Victorian-inspired ribbon flower, and we'll be putting it on a comb for our hair. So, the ribbon that I've selected is a French ombre, and it's a wired ribbon. And this one is a beautiful pink to a soft yellowish gold. And then we have for the leaves a beautiful bluish green, our fantastic hair comb. We have sewing scissors, which are fantastic for cutting a ribbon, and you definitely want to use instead of craft scissors, which you don't. And then we have some fantastic thread, which is actually what I'm using is a Maxi Lock. It's a serger thread, but I'm a little cheap and there's a lot of it. So let's get started. The flower that I've chosen to make for you today is one of my favorites, and it is the viola or the pansy. Don't get technical on me. I call them all pansies. So the fantastic thing about using this ombre ribbon is that you can decide what color you want to be the dominant, and how many flowers have a lighter color towards their center or have a fantastic fade effect. You can emulate that in your sewing. So I'm taking my pre-threaded needle and I'm going to start sewing. Now these pansies are only going to have the 4 petals instead of the classic 5. And I'm going to choose to put the lighter color actually on the outside. Now normally these would be a little bit more pressed and less wrinkly, but given the fact that the viola or pansy flowers often have the wrinkles, as long as you are confident in your sewing, it's not as big of a deal. And these wrinkles, as you see, are not too terribly extreme. So I'm starting at one edge, and I'm going to start a running stitch going diagonal down to the other side. Now there is a light wire in this, and if it was a little bit thicker, I would suggest taking it out, which is very easy. In these wired ribbons, you can actually pull the wire out, and it seems silly to do so, but it can help with the effects. And it's just as simple as that. You find the edge of the wire and you pull. I'll do it on the other side as well. So there's the edge, right there. And you pull. You can use pliers if you like, but it's pretty easy. The better quality of the ribbon, the easier the wire pull. It's not too terribly big of a deal. With this wire, as you can see, it's really thin, but sometimes it does help gather in a little bit more if you don't skip that step. Now I'm going to pull it all the way through. So you can see this is how the edge is going to turn in. And we're just going to do a running stitch all the way across. Now, the great thing about this is pansies often have multiple colors in their petals, and if you don't have too terribly many ribbons to choose from, using an ombre ribbon can help have that additional color change, because what you can do is you can change the direction that you're going to have the predominant color be. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. Okay, this petal is just start finished. So what I'm going to go ahead is start another one so you can see the running stitch a little bit easier. You can also see how unglamorous my hands look up close. So again, I'm going to have the light be on the outside, so that's going to be the predominant color. And I'm starting and doing the diagonal. Finish this petal off. Am I running again? I never know. Am I on? So we have these 2 petals here. Now we're going to go for the opposite side this time. Now I'm going to start this petal off like the last, and I'm going to explain the running stitch a little bit more in case you don't know. Feel free to roll your eyes if you do, It's perfectly acceptable at this point. Now the running stitch is just a basic stitch. And now if you are a quilter, stop. I'm serious. Do not do tiny little stitches. Those are fantastic for quilting, but they're actually not going to give you the desired effect for ribbon flower. A wider, messier stitch is going to be preferred because it helps gather it a little bit more, and it gives it a little bit more realistic life, if that makes sense. Now, this is just the needles going in and out of the fabric. You are not locking the thread in any way because you want it to gather. And as you see, when you pull the thread, you're going ahead and gathering the fabric after it. Now, if you are comfortable, you can utilize stitch whips to do different effects on your flowers. Having a wider stitch will create a wider gather, and a smaller stitch will create a smaller gather. Now, this petal is a little bit smaller. We're just going to finish this up. Now I have over here a set of petals that I have already finished for you. And we're going to go ahead and move on to that. So I chose these colors, first of all, because they're what I could grab out of my ribbon box, which may explain the wrinkles, but also because they're bright and they're spring-like, which if you live somewhere that can be gray, like Seattle, having bright, fantastic colors around you can be very cheerful. Alright, so like I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a 4-petal pansy. So these are going to be positioned like these. These are the 2 smaller petals. Now, I didn't actually show you, and I apologize for that. I had 2 lengths of ribbon for the 4 cups. 2 were longer and 2 were shorter. If you're using a solid color ribbon for making your pansy, you can go ahead and there's a new technique I can show you. But for now, we're going to take these 2 smaller rounds and we're going to stitch them together. In a soft little fan motion, you want one to overlap the other to emulate the petals formation on an actual pansy. Again, don't get all botanist on me, I call them all pansies. And when you are, as you can see, I have made the thread to be thicker by doubling it up and then folding that over. So we actually have a quadruple string thread action going on, which can create a little bit of problems with tangles if you're not paying attention or being careful. Now that I have these 2 stitched together, just a simple basic stitch, we're going to go ahead and put the back petal on. And we're going to stitch that in, and what you're going to try to do when you stitch is not have it show through the top petal here. So we're going to go ahead and fold that down. And just do some quick stitching in there. Just to make sure that it's secured in place. You can also glue this, but you need to test your fabrics first because some ribbons will absorb the glue, some of them it will show through, or it can change the color and you might not like what it ends up as. So always do a spot test before you commit to gluing. Now we're going to do the last petal. The great thing about the pansy is that once the last petal is on, you can put anything as a center. A button, rhinestones. I didn't bring it today, but I have a small collection of vintage buttons that I absolutely adore putting in as the center of flowers. A lot of them, the molds were mercury brushed, which leads to some beautiful colors, an iridescent sheen, which would be perfect for this. Now, without the center, this is your pansy. You can, of course, choose to do a second petal up here, and what I would recommend is, again, overlap it like you did for these two smaller petals. Now what we're going to do is add some leaves. I have this one pre-made, and you can just tuck it in and sew it in where you would like, but I would like to show you how to make one really quickly. There are many ways of making the leaves. This is a really simple way, and I find it to be pretty attractive, although actually for this I'm going to go ahead and take the ribbon out, provided that I can. It's a very fine ribbon. It's a very fine wire in this ribbon, which without pliers can be a little bit difficult to snag. Oop, but not difficult to cut. There we go. Perfect. All right. Now I'm going to take this length of ribbon here. Let's say that's maybe 3 inches, give or take. I'm kind of a give or take crafter anyways. I fold it in half. Now I'm going to take my needle and thread, and starting at the folded line, I'm going to go into the top corner, and again I'm going to do a small running stitch. So when I mean small, I mean that the width between the stitches is smaller than it was when I was showing you for the petals. Because what I want is a small gather that isn't going to destroy the shape of the petal. Now I'm sewing diagonally from one corner to the other. And stabbing myself in the finger repeatedly, because I'm talented like that. And in case you're wondering, yes, that was my GLaDOS moment. And if you don't know who that is, hang your head in shame. Or play more video games. Now I've gone ahead and I have knotted the thread. And now I can open the leaf up. So this is what the outside looks like. And this is what the back will look like. Something to know about ribbon work is the back of your work will never be beautiful. It's never going to look pretty, and it's never going to look neat. So what you can always do is back it with a little bit of buckram or felt, depending on what you're doing or where it lays. So now we have these 2 leaves. We can go ahead. I think I want that one on the outside actually. And arrange them how you want them. Another thing you can do with the ribbon, well, another thing to realize about the ribbon is that it will flatten a little bit more over time, which will give it a little bit more of a antiqued look. So depending on where you want to put your leaves, I think I'll actually put them up here. Or here's the comb that I was thinking of putting this flower on. I'll probably put it on at a diagonal. So the leaves should go right about there. It's always a good idea to think about what your finished product is for, to figure out your placement. Now again, we want to make sure that the stitching for the leaves onto the petals isn't too terribly visible. And this is where your small stitching skills will come in handy. Also, a great tip is to stitch inside of the gathers. If you see that your ribbon is naturally gathering in one area, you can put your stitch there and that'll help hide it. Now, I'm doing less stitching than I would normally do to secure it, but I just want to give you an idea. Now I'm going to turn this around the back. As you can see, not pretty. This is kind of like one of those Pinterest nailed it moments. Nailed it! Until you turn it around and you see that it's fantastic. Don't worry about the back of your flower. Now, if I had a couple more leaves or the button center, this could already be done. And what you end up having is something that is really unique, but it's also very reminiscent of an older age, and it's really beautiful. You can use any color and you can make this correspond with any outfit that you like. So if I had a couple more leaves, I could sew them in, or maybe some vines, and this would be done. You can also make buds that are reminiscent, so it's more of a complete look. Now, this piece here will be perfect for a wedding or a tea party, but depending on the colors you choose, it can be fantastic for normal streetwear, or if you're in a little bit more of a romantic off, depending on the button that you use in the center, it can also go to hardcore punk. Now, my personal preference are vintage buttons, and I have a small collection. They're glass, and they're from when they used to brush the molds with mercury, which is horrific, but makes a beautiful effect. Don't worry, the mercury is actually not touching me or near me. It's dissipated. Anyways, woohoo, science magic. So, like I was saying, you can use any centerpiece, or you can glue rhinestones on. This will change the entire effect of your flower. And then when you're done, you can just tuck it into your hair. Now, the comb I use here, you can find in any craft section. And these are a little bit more expensive, and I actually recommend going on Amazon or going online to find these, because at a Joann's Fabrics, this single comb could be $7, which is ridiculous. You can find plastic combs for cheaper, or my personal favorite, alligator clips. Alligator clips. Not the kind you find at Home Depot, or you don't find them at Home Depot. Not the kind you find at Office Max, but the kind you can find at a Sally's. All right, and there you go. Fantastic flowers, utilized for any occasion. I can't talk.
Well, good, you're rolling.